G'day guys, Marcus back yet again. Today is the 23rd of July 2026 and I thought I'd give you guys a quick update as to where this software has come since my last update. Something I'm very proud to share actually. What I've developed now, and I did make mention of this in a previous video, was that domains, life domains, will be the next chapter within the software. And I'm very proud to say that it is, I'm going to call it 90 something percent complete, and I'll tell you why the last 10% is not yet complete, and it's just waiting for me to sign off on. But domains, what are domains, and what is domains in relation to astrology, and how does that help you with I guess your own map of life, or if you're doing some readings for other people, then a map of their life, which can be domain specific. So what are domains within astrology, and I guess just the general nature of life as we go through society? There's a range of different domains that we can categorize life into, and under traditional astrology, they generalize to 5 domains. I've opted for 6. So what are they? Vocational, self, health and physical, finances, mind and learning, relationships, and spiritual and values. This is personal values. And a phenomenal amount of time, energy and effort has gone into getting this module up and running. I must have read, it would have easily been 100 different interpretations or readings on these domains for a variety of different people, where I have verified natal data for. And I'm very, very excited actually to share how well this thing is working, this module is working. And at the moment, I've just done a system reset on this, and I need to regenerate all of the domain for my own natal. So at the moment, the natal is me, and rather than sort of share somebody else's natal data, it's just me at this point. So what I've done is I've just recently generated mind and learning, and I thought this is probably not a bad idea to just for myself just take a break from developing the software and actually sharing a little bit more about what the software is currently doing and where it's at. So here's where we're at. So what is a domain synthesis? A domain synthesis is effectively, let's have a look at the natal, let's have a look at the planet placement in house and sign. What are the aspects that are going on based on that snapshot of your birth, and then overlay that with progressions, and then overlay that with major transits being Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. How are they significant? How are those outer planets? How are they impacting your the domains of your life and your natal for that matter? And with that developmental arc of both transits and progressions, how does that sit with each domain? So in this particular domain that I'll share with you now, this is mind and learning. This is me, and what I'll do initially is just give you an idea of what is actually in a domain synthesis. And each domain synthesis has the same titles. Each chapter is the same across each domain, and excuse me, obviously it varies based on what the actual domain is. So here we have a structural picture, which we'll come back and read through in a moment. Domain topology, which is effectively what does my chart say in terms of what I'm built for in the area of mind and learning. What am I not built for? There's a counterweight for what I'm not built for. For things that I'm not built well to do, what is the counterweight? How do we counter that to make sure that to ensure that I can make up for where I am not strong in this particular domain? Then there's a cross-domain reach. So very often we'll find in a chart, particularly depending on the latitude of where you were born, you can find that the the critical house cusp can be quite close to, say, a cardinal, and in which case you can get cross domain. Some reach across domain, so you might find that your finances and your vocation are very closely related due to placement and so on. Arc connection, which we may come back to time permitting, and then here's the developmental arc that I referred to earlier. So what I've done in the development arc is that you'll have certain phases that you will go through, and then within those phases I've built this to give you a decade by decade breakdown of what the development arc looks like. And this is somewhat brief in the way that it's assembled, and which is why I mentioned before this is 90% complete. This particular part of the module, I've called it segment number 1, is 100% complete. It's segment number 2 that comes after this that's incomplete. And just to introduce what that incomplete section is, it takes everything that's in this particular section, the developmental arc, and it develops a very fluid and well-flowing, comprehensive narrative of what this means to a lay person. So if you're not an astrologer, or you are not a well-practiced astrologer, it's the sort of thing where you could you could print that out, keep it aside, reference it over time, but it reads like a very fluid and fluent narration of your developmental arc, as opposed to this one, which is very, very much heavily populated with astrology terminology and so on. So for all intensive purposes, the from a pure astrological standpoint, this domain reading is complete in its own right. It's the last 10% is really pulling the data, narrating it in a fashion that the layperson can read and connect with a whole lot better than being blanketed with astrological terminology. So the development arc, it covers over the phases and decade by decade. As you can see here, this was a decade for me between the ages of 30 and 40, and then I enter phase 3 as the sun moves into Scorpio. Into Scorpio from the 12th house to the 1st, and that enters my third phase in my life. Then we have the decade of 40 to 50 and so on, all the way until probably age, I'll probably be well and truly dead before 100, but it does go out to 100. And then strengths and tensions. So it talks about where my strengths and tensions are in this particular domain. And this is not generic, guys, so you're not going to read the same structural strengths and tensions in, say, spiritual values or vocation or health or finances. This is actually dedicated specific to the domain. But let's have a quick read. Let's see what sort of contents we can see here. What's the structural picture for this guy, Marcus, the natal? The mental faculty in this chart operates through Mercury and Jupiter in an architecture of remarkable dignity and stubborn isolation. Mercury in Virgo at 15 degrees 2 minutes in the 11th house holds both domicile and exaltation, the highest essential dignity possible, ruling the 9th house of higher learning and philosophy, and the 8th house of depth and inheritance, and the 12th house of hidden matters and what operates out of sight. Yet Mercury is retrograde under the beams at 9 degrees from the Sun and makes no aspect within a qualifying 5-degree orb. The most essential dignified planet in the chart governs the house of deep thought, concealed operations, receives every dispositor chain in the horoscope, but speaks to no other planet directly. Here is a mind of extraordinary native capacity that processes alone. Integration happens through internal analytical work, not through dialogue. It means that effectively I don't have to sit around with a nice cup of tea and a slice of cake to determine direction or anything like that. I'm very much a person that can process without having to get validation from other people one way or the other. So Jupiter in Scorpio at 5 degrees 30. It's a very interesting 5 degrees 30 minutes. It's actually an angle that I use per sign when I'm trading in the XJO. It's very interesting to read that actually pops up. So that's something that's something that's very native to me, I guess, for pardon the pun. Jupiter in Scorpio at 5 degrees 30 in the first house rules the third house of immediate environment, communications, daily operation of mind, perception, speech, short journeys of thought. Jupiter is peregrine, lacking essential dignity in Scorpio, but angular to the house of the body in insect and the diurnal as the diurnal benefic. The third house matters route through visible personal expression. The native's ordinary thinking, speaking, and local engagement fire through who they visibly are. Jupiter disposes to Mars in the 11th, which disposes to Mercury. The everyday mind routes through the chart's ruler, friction before arriving at an isolated analytical terminus. So what does that mean for me? Yeah, look, so if you're not aware with how things flow through a chart, this is a real brief introduction which I won't elaborate too much on, but Jupiter, which is my first house, rules the planet of mind and excuse me, just had a mental blank for a second then and a distraction. My mind and learning. So it has to route to get to the final dispositor, which is Mercury in my instance, and it has to go via Mars. And Mars, as you well know, I think can be edgy from time to time. So by the time information works its way through my mind, it goes via Mars and processes accordingly. So without labouring the rest of this reading, it's about understanding how this domain reading actually works, and this is probably more critical, this particular section here, to most people. What is the composition built for? Mercury domiciled and exaltation rules the 9th house of higher learning and the 8th house of depth and hidden matters. This is a mind built for penetrating understanding, for philosophical and occult study, for the long investigation that ordinary commerce cannot sustain. It means that I'm built to actually go the long haul. Don't give up very easily. I tend to have a focus on longer term goals rather than just the immediate gratification, and I'm kind of built that way astrologically. The essential dignity means that faculty itself is sound. Native intelligence is not the question. Mercury in Virgo learns by method, by categorization, by building systemic understanding from the ground up. The 11th house placement embeds this faculty in a house of long-term aspirations, hopes, and rewards of patient work. The mind is built for study that takes years, for projects that require sustained analytical attention, for vocational and intellectual aims that cannot be rushed. The mind holds what it can take in. The earthliness in Virgo is retention and method, retention and method, not speed. And that is, that pretty clearly defines who I am. To be honest with you guys, I can come across old school buddies I haven't seen for 20 and 30 years, and we'll sit down and have a quiet conversation about things, and I can remember things in vivid detail. Who was there, what the weather was, who was wearing what. I wouldn't say that I've got a photographic memory, but I can remember things in great detail, which tends to astound people. And I've just sort of taken it for granted that I can remember, the exact location, what time of day, who was there, what transpired, things of that nature. So people have been actually quite surprised for that. And when I read this domain about myself 3 or 4 days ago, I was like, holy moly, this thing is it's actually surprising me now how accurate it is. So just let's continue on rather than reading the rest of what I'm built for. What am I not built for? What is the composition, what the competition is built against? So what do I, from a natural standpoint, what am I not so good about in this particular domain of life, and what can I do about it? What can I bring into my own consciousness that I can lift this area, I can support it in some fashion. So Mercury, unaspected isolation, is the defining constraint. The faculty is sound. So the faculty of Mercury doing what it needs to do and in its placement in house and sign is not a problem. The articulation is not. So the faculty itself is sound, it's fine, but the articulation is not. A mind that processes alone cannot easily dialogue. It cannot test its conclusion against another responses, cannot speak what it knows at the moment of knowing it. The retrograde condition intensifies this. Mercury retrograde turns the thinking inward, better at reflection than at real-time engagement, surer in private consideration than in public exchange. Under the beams means that we are combust here. That's what under the beams means. Conditions further mutes outward expression. Mercury's light is obscured by the sun's proximity, and what the mind holds may not be visible to others or even available to the native's own conscious awareness until it has been processed. So what does that tell me? It means that for the most part, my natural lay of the land is that I might not voice things straight away. I'll sit back and I'll process. I'll put things in perspective. I tend to calculate things very, very quickly. I tend to be a bit more Spock-like, where logic tends to be the overarching mechanism for me determining and rationalizing things. The composition is built against quick answers and spontaneous articulation. The conversation brilliance that responds in that moment, it is built against collaborative thinking where ideas develop through exchange. The mind may grasp fully and speak late. So without continuing, you can see that theme continues. The counterweight to what I'm not built for is value adding to me and to anyone else that we do a domain reading on. Mercury, supreme essential dignity itself, is the counterweight. A planet both domiciled and exaltation is a strong planet to be in essential terms. The isolation and retrograde and the solar obscuration are accidental debilities. They affect how the faculty operates, not what the faculty is. The mind is sound, the expression is constrained. Where expression fails, the internal grasp may still be complete. The native may know more than they can easily say, understand more than they can readily share. This is not a consolation but structure. The composition offers depth at the cost of fluency. So, without labouring my own chart in this particular domain, you can see there's some value here. If you were reading this for yourself, for example, and that's on the provision that you have a correctly rectified natal, I might add, that it can point some things out to you that you probably go, yeah, of course, I already know that. But when you read it from a standpoint through astrology, you go, hey, look, now I understand something that I didn't, I took for granted, but now I actually understand a little bit more from an astrological standpoint why that is, or why I am a certain way, and so on. So without labouring this any further, guys, this is something that's going to be available very, very soon. In fact, there's a bunch of you guys that have given me your natal data, and if you're watching this and you'd like me to run some of these domains for you and send them to you, can you please send me an email and say, hey Marcus, I love what you saw. Can you give me can you run my structural picture and domain reading of, say, vocation, if that's something that's on your mind at the moment, or finances or relationships? Just send me an email and I'll run this for you. You can see it cost me $30, $30 to run one of these things. Happy to send them out to you guys, and I would really enjoy feedback, guys. So if you connect with the domain reading, I want you to send me an email back and tell me what's right, tell me what's wrong. If it's wrong, I'm probably more interested, well, I'm equally interested if it's not right, because that makes me want to go and dig a little bit further to see if the natal has been correctly rectified. And we do that through running a bunch of transits over your life events. So if you had something very, very significant happen to you, something very, very vividly memorable, then we need to find out that date, give me some brief details of what actually happened on that day, and then I can run the transit, get a good look at the reading, see if that fits in perspective of what you've told me in terms of that biographic incident in your life, send it to you, and then if it's correct, and we've done that multiple times off multiple transits, but the domain is not reading correctly, then structurally it should read correctly. I'm like 90-something% certain that if we've got the right natal, this is going to continually read correctly for you guys. But in any case, without rambling on any further, that is domain synthesis for you. Next step from this will be to complete that last 10%, which I mentioned before, which will take the astrological based reading and turn it into a very fluent story that the layperson can read, which can be downloaded and put into a PDF, or downloaded as a PDF. The next step after that is to take the transit readings, which are currently based on two things. That is a natal foundation and the date of the incident, and it will transfer to three things. So it'll be a transit reading based on the transits, natal foundation, and domain synthesis. So that'll be the basis for transit readings going forward. At the moment, transit readings are reading exceptionally well. Very, 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 very happy with how these things have come together. Very keen to share it with you guys so that you guys can experience it yourself. But Marcus being Marcus, I want to get this into a more well-rounded astrological offering to you guys and to the market at large, rather than sending it out as a half-baked product that's not quite there. But anyway, that's enough from me, guys. Welcome to send me some feedback, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, guys. Bye.